Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat, episode 551, featuring the master of horror himself, Mr. Agustín Cordes. What happens when a psychological horror game gets under your skin and stays there for 20 years? That was my experience with this first game, Scratches. One of my favorites. It's definitely become a cult classic if you're into the genre at all. But more recently, he has released a new game that's been many years in development called Asylum. So we'll talk about that game, the long road from cult classic to modern nightmare. Talk about the design, dread, Euro horror, and why he's saying goodbye to point and click for good. So stick around. This one's a deep cut. Got a lot to cover, so without further ado, here is Mr. Agustín Cordes.
Well, I figured a puzzle master like you could figure it out.
Yeah. I know. I was too confident on the link, which usually includes the password. But yes, I had to do a bit of snooping around to get it.
Well, glad that you challenged me enough.
Yeah, I know. Let me turn off notifications everywhere because
I was going to see, when was the last time I had you on? It was
10. I think it's 10 years, maybe.
you still you're looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bit of a unhealthy belly, so I need to exercise after this damn project. But yeah, still holding up.
Yeah, where is that? So I guess it was Matt Chat 93. Yeah, there's the video. I'm seeing what the date is on this. Whoa, 14 years ago.
14 years ago, but we chat twice, actually.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So maybe there was a more recent one.
Oh yeah, 185. The Kickstarter for this game. That was 12 years ago.
Okay, there you go. Still a long time. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a little while.
Well, yeah.
You still living in Argentina? I seem to recall that.
Yeah. I moved during these past few years, and that was, another crazy period of my life. But I'm settled now. And this thing is out. So, finally I can start relaxing a little bit.
You? Yeah, I still remember this.
Oh, wow.
This was yeah, I was looking at some reviews of this one, and people are still saying this is one of the scariest, if not the scariest game they've ever played.
I don't know if it's the scariest. I mean, maybe it's the most psychological scary, as they say.
Oh my God.
But people are very fond of scratches, for sure.
The scratch sound effects, we'll get into Asylum here in a second, man, but I'll never forget that part of the game, part of this where you have to go inside those under that boiler.
Yeah, I know.
Man alive. I still have nightmares about that,
Wow.
I mean, legitimate, still have nightmares about this game. Wasn't it like a voodoo room too, with like a mask?
That's right, in the gallery.
Yeah, that was
another. It's the one jump scare. The one jump scare that it's very well timed. That's what grabbed people by surprise.
You mastered that. I mean, how long did it take you to make Scratches?
3 years.
3 years, and okay, so it took a little bit longer to make Asylum.
Yeah, Asylum has been a messy project, really. It was. Oh, there you go. You're sharing. But all things considered,
I'll know the actual game here in a little bit, but
sure.
I just was drawing attention to the positive reviews. I thought it was, I guess, very positive. It sounded like it was
Very
even
positive.
higher before.
Yeah, maybe. The scores begin fluctuating, but it seems like it's going to stay around this for a while, which is fine, really. I mean, this is an atypical game,
Yeah.
very atypical. So I'm surprised about these reviews actually, and
Well, that part scared me.
yeah.
Yeah, this one we'll get into the game.
Have you played it fully or not yet?
I'm up to I think midnight.
Okay,
So I just
okay,
talked to a doctor. Just met a doctor in that
Dr.
creepy
Miller.
lab.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah,
Cool.
I could definitely tell you made it. And I saw you had Jonathan Boakes, I think, doing one of the voices.
It is Jonathan Boakes. Yes, that's
I don't know how many
the
people
veteran
recognize
of
that name.
franchise. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's he been up to? Have you
So
been in touch with him? What's
uh,
he doing?
he actually announced the launch date for a game, La Mana, I believe. It's launching very very soon, a couple of months, I think, and it's looking great. So I mean, Jonathan, he's very busy. Matt Clark as well. So there is more horror stuff on the way, it seems.
It's really good to see. I've always been a fan of this genre. I like this
Yeah,
kind of
me too.
genre better even than I know a lot of people like the third person sort of,
Yeah,
but this is
yeah.
more immersive for me, especially with a horror game. You really want to be in there and feel like you're the one walking down those
It's
hallways.
yeah, it's a matter of taste. I enjoy both formats really. I mean, depends on the mood, but I really enjoy third person adventures too. One day maybe we will do one, but for now I kind of like this first person perspective. I like exploring in games, and I think first person is better for that. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm so happy to see all the positive reviews and stuff for this because this is I'd love to see even more games like this.
Yeah,
My
I know.
first, I'm trying to think like the first horror adventure game. You ever play? We might have talked about this 12 years ago or so, but remember Uninvited? You ever play that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
that
I, I
was
have
one of
it
my
in,
favorites.
I have it in my collection and invited even the folio edition.
Oh, nice. Yeah, oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
That's a
great.
creepy one. ICOM simulations, I think. Oh, yeah, ICOM. Who was the designer on that? Or
The disket. Yeah.
who's the writer on that one?
Huh. No, let me see. I don't remember. I don't remember if they advertised if they credited the developers, in these games
Yeah,
in the manual.
because I talked
No,
to the Shadowgate dev. I don't know if it's the same guy for the Uninvited.
it's very possible. Very possible it is. Very possible. It was a small team, so maybe, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of hard to even figure out the basic stuff. Like, well, you don't make that mistake with your games. I mean, it's pretty, I love the way your game, this new one, starts off. Maybe you mind if I see if I could show this? I'll try to share the
No problem.
screen here and we'll see if this
Okay.
works.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be cool for people to see this intro.
Sure.
There we go. Hang on. Oh, yeah, you can see where I'm at in this. Share the sound. Where we go? Oh, maybe I can't share this. Let me try it
No?
again. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Right.
Here's where I'm at in the game right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very close to
Yeah,
midnight. Yeah.
really good. How do I get back to the intro?
You have to start a new game.
New game. Yeah, because I thought this was just such a great way to start a game. Even this.
I was going to change that, but I thought, okay, let's leave the retro vibe. Why
No,
not?
it feels like you're watching Stranger Things.
Yeah, a bit like that. No, no.
Yeah, I like that VHS sort of look.
Yeah.
Herbert West, that's a Lovecraft thing.
Yes, technically speaking, actually, the quote is not by Herbert West. It's actually the collaborator, the assistant from Herbert West. But he doesn't have a name. He's just the narrator of the story. So we basically, we are crediting the short story. Yeah, it's a great
Oh,
quote. Yeah, that's actually Reanimator.
yeah,
Oh,
it's really
the
super.
cursor shouldn't be there. Let me take a screenshot. The cursor. Why do you have the cursor in there? That's weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to exit out of this.
Yeah.
Oh, escape. I thought it turned. Oh, there's that lady.
Hmm.
I thought it turned the volume down already. Let me. I got
I
turned.
know. I am not hitting anything actually.
But I like the way that the fonts and like the ride, and you get sort of the flashback,
Yeah.
and it's already like, what's going on here?
Hmm.
And you just keep getting more and more into this mystery. I mean, look, even like the settings is thematically appropriate, you know?
Yeah, that
This
was
book, I mean, nothing
exactly
here
the,
is.
the idea. Yeah. That was exactly the whole idea. Very, diegetic. Like you, everything in the game, is about your mind. The mystery.
I noticed that you had a lot more people in this one too.
In what sense? You mean
Don't you have more
interacting?
characters in it? Like
Oh
just I don't
yeah,
remember having this many conversations and scratches.
yeah. No. It's definitely more chatty. Yes, more interactions, and we played a lot with the dialogues too. There are Easter eggs. We reveal story points during dialogues more than in scratches, even I would say.
And this is well handled too, because you
Yeah.
and whenever you're doing a game like this, I guess the choice is: do you want to have like some options for dialogue? Do you want to have
Right.
a parser where people can just type in things? I mean, of course,
Hmm.
I like something more focused like this, so I don't feel like I'm just wandering all over the place with no clue as to what I should do next.
Right. Right. We try to include as many again, yeah, helpers so that people don't get lost, even though the place is actually quite big. That was one of the criticisms in scratches, that occasionally you had to wander around too much, and the puzzles were a bit too obscure even, so we toned that down for this game.
Yeah, I guess that's the always been the challenge of a game like this is you want the puzzles to be challenging, but not so challenging that people get stuck and frustrated.
Not exactly. No, frustration is not good. And so far, I mean, bugs aside, because we did have some bugs at launch, and we are still working to fix some weird game conditions. But other than that, I heard, good feedback about the puzzles
Oh,
in
I
general.
would agree. Yeah, I didn't get.
Uh,
I thought it was clever. I did the. I don't want to spoil the puzzles for anybody here, but I like the way that you did the little uh password.
the password, yeah. That's
The
actually
combination
yeah,
was fun because you get that weird
it's
clue.
straightforward. Yeah.
You get this freaky clue, and you're like, "What the heck does that have to do?" But then when you get to the puzzle, I'm like, "Oh, I know the
Oh,
answer
there
to
you go.
this." And of course, you
Yeah.
got one of my favorite kinds of puzzles, a rat-based puzzle.
Ah, yeah.
Like you're playing a good game when you got uh, a rat puzzle. How do
Yeah, that's maybe one of the most disgusting ones. Yeah.
I got to get back to the I'm trying to think of how you get to the basement. You go down here, right?
Yeah, I don't think you actually have to. Have you seen the tapes in the therapy room? The
Yeah,
reels? Okay, there you go. So you have to look for that guy now.
that was it was a madman running around the
Right. Yeah.
cafeteria, and that was freaky.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't been here yet.
It's a large place, really. And some cool effects too. The fog in the ground. There was nothing like that in Scratches. Oh, fireflies. That looks nice.
Yeah,
It gives more depth to the environment. It almost feels 3D, even though it's not.
yeah, I prefer it like that. I was going to ask you about that because I guess you might have been thinking of doing this like a first person shooter kind of game where you just wander around. But I
At some
think
point, yeah, I mean, at some point we toyed with the idea of going full 3D. That was years ago, really, and we realized that doing so would have meant basically start the whole game from scratch, and all of these graphics are designed for pre-render, right? So everything is pre-rendered. And going full 3D would have meant, redoing props, retopologizing, optimizing, sacrificing graphical quality, and rethinking way too many things. And in the end, I'm happy that the game has this format because it's part of its charm. It feels like an extension of Scratches in a way, and it works.
yeah.
It works for the kind of game that it is. So I'm glad that we didn't go the full 3D route. Next game, it's going to be full 3D.
Well, I think this kind of format it's got its advantages, I think, for an adventure game. Again, just helping you to focus and know what's
Yeah,
relevant.
it's very, very complex to do, really. It might seem like it's simpler to do, but it's quite a pain. So again, when it's pre-rendered, if you forgot something or you have to add a paper somewhere, consider that you have, for example, in the cafeteria, you have 3 nodes. Each node has 6 textures. So that's 12 textures, big textures, just for the cafeteria. If you need to add a paper that is seen from all the nodes, you have to re-render everything. So it's really just you're inside the cube with the textures, and each thing is a patch, either a patch of image or a video. The doors are videos. When you see anything animated in the node, that's another video. Julia in her desk, she's sitting at her desk and she's moving. That's a video patch. So when you walk around the desk, you see one video patch, another video patch, and so it's kind of a lost craft. This doing
Yeah.
games like this,
Oh,
really.
yeah. Of course, I
And
grew up playing those kinds of games, so I love it.
we are not doing it again. Yeah.
No, I gotta exit out of this. We're gonna end up getting lost again.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think that's just really fabulous the way that you did this.
So thank
I
you.
mean, it's certainly
Uh,
not just me, right? You look at these reviews, everybody's like, "Yeah, it's so
yeah,
creepy.
yeah, yeah. But
Go through this basement
no
and
complaints.
like
No
like the
complaints.
doors thing." The fact that if this was a first person shooter, you could just quickly look around and see everything. But the way it is here, you kind of got that moment of dread because you're like,
Yeah.
"What if there's somebody standing there? Oh God, there's somebody."
Yeah,
Kind of
exactly.
like that horror movie feeling.
Yeah. So in the case of the next game, even though we are going full 3D, meaning that you move with the WASD keys, very typical Doom-like perspective, we are going to predefine the paths across each room so that you don't have complete freedom,
Right.
so that I don't want people like banging their head against the walls because they can run and move everywhere. No, it's going to be still a little bit like you can move around, certainly with more freedom than in Asylum, but it's still going to be like we want you to walk around these parts, not everywhere. you know so anyway, I mean, it's too early still. We are
Yeah, you sound
prototyping
like you're
still.
already halfway through develop or at least thinking through this next game. Is it going to be a
No,
sequel?
it's in production already. Yeah, yeah.
Is it going to be a sequel to Asylum or what?
No, it's going to be different. No, 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 no sequels.
completely different. Huh?
We are closing a chapter. This is the end of, Scratches and the history of Asylum 2. That's it. No more games like this. It's
Uh,
over.
we'll see what happens.
We'll see, of course. Yeah, I mean, you never know. But for now, this is our goodbye letter to this particular point and click style. It's going to be adventure the next one, but not this kind of point and click.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned it sounds like you kind of had some troubles making this game. Some
yeah.
struggles. I mean, is that kind
Lots
of
of
that did that kind of dampen your enthusiasm for the?
No, 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 no. It was a trouble development, of course. I still like point and click. It's just that I want to try something different next time. A different format, a different way to approach narrative. It was complicated for this particular type of game in Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is not prepared for a game like this. It's of course
Yeah.
tailored for full 3D and mostly first person. So basically, we had to build a game engine on top of Unreal Engine to run Asylum. That is extremely complicated to do. Really, we had to go deep down into the weeds to get this game done with this particular format, and it again was too much of a headache.
Yeah, it's actually somebody had sent a question in about that. I wanted to know why you developed with Unreal Engine 4 instead of the Scream engine
Oh,
that you created for Scratches.
Scream. Okay, Scream was actually done under Nucleosis, and the company was dissolved, meaning that I don't have the full rights to use, Scream. And anyway, the engine was dated. There was scratches. I was just getting started in programming, and there were stuff that was really bad practice. Like for example, in scratches, if you change the resolution, you break the game. So there was no, it wasn't designed for that. It was very kind of, yeah, rigid. But so anyway, we began developing a different engine similar to Screen called Dagon, which was a bit more modernized, but still old-fashioned, old school, like in scratches, all
Mhm.
self-made. Eventually, we realized. I mean, we wanted to add some stuff, eye candy. We realized the characters were going to be pre-rendered as well at first, and they seemed too robotic. That they didn't seem good. So I really wanted to upgrade them to full 3D characters. The thing is, when you are doing your own proprietary engine and you want to add that sort of eye candy, the fireflies, the fog, or the dynamic lighting, the 3D characters, and then you want to consider porting to consoles, to Mac, to Linux. It's way too much work when you are doing your own engine. That's what the generalist ones, such as Unreal and Unity, uh, they sort out that stuff for you, and that's was basically the whole direction of the industry. Like very few developers do proprietary engines today. I would say that the um, for the case of Asylum, was going to be way too much work and expensive because I needed like a dedicated programming team to do that. I mean, just for the engine, which is again very expensive. And that's the reason why basically we migrated to Unreal, which was a good decision. Was a good decision. I think the game became better because of that, and now we have the experience to tackle the next one from scratch with a different design and philosophy in mind. That's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk to people with similar situations where they've made a game in Unity or Unreal. Uh, and yeah, there's a lot of things that are done for you, a lot of assets, a lot of great pluses. But unless you're trying to make a sort of standard first person shooter game,
Yeah.
you're still gonna have to do a lot of programming and development.
Oh yeah, you can't avoid programming at all. I mean, I'm talking about basically the backbone of the game. Like the engine is basically, yeah, the base. But when you if you need a feature, right, that doesn't exist, you have to create it. So I mean, Unreal and Unity gives you a whole cool, starting base for your game. You have a lot of tools at your disposal, like an interface editor, for example, to begin with. I mean, when you are doing your own engine, it's not just the code to run the game. You need to do an editor as well, and we didn't have that. So it is too much work. I am not ruling out the possibility of doing custom engines. It really depends on the type of game. If you have an idea in mind that you can implement it more in a straightforward way with Unreal or Unity, I mean, go for that. There is absolutely no reason why you should get started with your own custom engine. Now, if the game is really atypical in a way that it doesn't quite fit with the philosophy of an engine like Unity or Unreal, then that's okay. You might want to consider doing it from scratch. But again, it's very risky today. Very risky doing your own engine. I do not recommend it at all. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do hear one of the most common criticisms I hear of modern games is that they all seem to be similar to each other. And there's
Uh,
people talk back in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, there were a lot, it was very rare to have
yeah.
a game that was just like another game. But
Yeah.
like you're saying, you go to all that, it's so much more complex making a 3D engine for something than it
There
was to
is a
make a 2D
yeah.
game.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's not just a matter of engines that games are beginning to look similar today. It also has to do with the whole direction the industry took. Like, I'm looking at old adventures, and each company had their own style. Sierra had their style, LucasArts, even across their own products, they had different styles. You had more variety, from pixel art to slightly more refined pixel art to full motion video. And of course, then eventually 3D also began to find its way. Right now, the trend is full. It's 3D in general. I mean, we still have, and thankfully, different games, like Immortality, which is full motion. Even in pixel art, you have different styles, and that's great. But it's true, that's undeniably true, that when you work with a generalist engine, it feels like there's something, like a common thread across the
Mhm.
games. Yeah, and that's unavoidable, I think. Um, I mean, of course, one way to alleviate that is having a talented art director in the project who imparts his or her own vision in the visual department, and that makes the game stand out. So I think that's one way to counter that, right?
I heard of this Immortality game before.
it's it's really fun.
Is that one of your favorites? Films.
Sorry.
Oh, this came out in
The
22.
Yeah, it's a nice
Oh, I've
concept.
heard of
Enjoyed
this.
it.
Yeah, the full motion video.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's coming back.
yeah. I would say the gameplay mechanics, it's a bit. There are no gameplay mechanics. Well, you're just watching video clips, and it can get a bit frustrating because you have to. I mean, you have to play it right, but you have to discover like these items that connect clips with each other.
Mm.
And the issue that I have is that the items sometimes they don't take you to the same clip. So it's a bit random, meaning that you're just watching stuff which is super compelling. The story is very compelling, and there are some moments that take you by surprise. So it's a fun game, especially for me, who I'm a fan of 70s, 60s stuff, especially horror movies. was a cool experience.
I think you had said on this that this was inspired by the Hammer films
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and the Euro horror.
Euro horror.
Euro, what
Yeah.
is Euro? What's a good Euro horror film?
The House by the Cemetery, The Beyond. I mean, I love Lucio Fulci. Euro horror typically, I mean, you could say there are back in the 80s or 70s, like three major countries produced Euro horror movies. In the first place, it's definitely Italy. That's what, when you say Euro horror, Italy comes to mind immediately because directors such as Dario Argento, who is worldwide famous, Lucio Fulci also gained a lot of popularity. In recent times, he was typically malignant, or treated like a hack director. I think he's incredible. His movies are really fantastic. The cinematography in Lucio Fulci films are wonderful. And well, anyway, you have Italy, Spain for sure, especially you know uh, there are some very famous movies from Spain as well, and France. Those are I would say, the three most important producers of Euro horror in the past. But really, those are the base influences in Asylum. Um, when it comes to the visual style, a bit of the story, there are other influences as well, a bit more modern, you could say. When it comes to literature, or J.J. Ballard is an author that inspired me a lot. Christopher Priest, another sci-fi writer who, yeah, I absolutely love most of his work. And Cronenberg, David Cronenberg is another definite influence in Asylum.
Yeah, I was thinking it kind of reminded me a little bit of Shutter Island.
Yeah,
You've
and
never seen?
funnily, let me double check this. Really double check this, but I believe that Shutter Island, yes, 2010. Uh, the Asylum script was actually finished before Shutter Island.
Ah,
And I love the movie, by the way. It's one of my favorite movie from Scorsese for sure. It's fantastic. Um, so yeah, there are some things in common with Shutter Island. You could say.
that just shows you, great minds thinking alike, right? That's happened.
Maybe. Yeah.
You make
I
a,
don't dare compare myself with Martin
I
Scorsese.
don't, that tell you how many times I've like tried to write a story or something, thinking I had this original concept, and then somebody says, "Oh, that was a comic book from, that there's a show called Black Mirror, Matt. You're just copying
Yeah.
that." Like I've never even seen that show. How can I be copying it? Well, it's just
Yeah.
same
Some
plot.
some things, yeah, some themes are, you could say, a product of their time as well. This happens a lot in movies. There's no example that comes straight to mind now, but it's not uncommon to see two movies with the exact same, uh, not plots, but theme, right? Theme, and they were released like maybe just a few months apart from each other, meaning there's no way one movie copied the other, or vice versa. So yeah, sometimes it has to do with, you know the ongoing uh, ambience or political moment, right, in the world. Who knows? It's just sometimes it happens.
I've seen some games like that too, and people get into this back and forth about which one came first and who copied who, and you're like, they did not copy. It's just
No,
sometimes it happens. People,
sometimes it
you could be very different parts of the country, and never or different parts of the world, and just come up with the same idea or similar. But even with
yeah.
those cases, if you really start to dig into it, you'll see that they're not the same.
No, they're not the same. I mean, not it's rare. It happens, of course. I remember, well, for example, some of the games that go viral in mobile, such as Flappy Bird. Of course, there are Flappy Bird clones everywhere, such as there were, Pac-Man clones in the past. I
Sure.
mean, sometimes, yes, there are blatant clones because a game was too popular and someone says, oh, I'm going to do exactly the same with this one new feature, and well, there you go. But in a
Instead of the Pac-Man and the Ghost, it'll be a Commodore logo,
exactly,
and I'm
there you go. Or it's Pac-Man, but you're a Pac-Man girl now. And well, actually, I mean, in that case, I think Mrs. Pac-Man is a much better game. It actually has more differences than the original Pac-Man. The gameplay is actually a little bit different, even. So that's not the best example. I mean, when it comes to a game that has more narrative or a story, a more, it's not just a one gimmick. It's it's very difficult to copy that. You know, each game is there might be influences, of course, but you know, it's fine. It happens.
no, I agree. I mean, if I was playing something that was like Asylum, if it was just, well, it's also set in an asylum, okay, fine. If there's a character named Julia at the desk, okay, okay, this is
Okay. That reminds me, again, I don't know if it's not copy again, but there were very similarities. Darkness Within came after Scratches. It took place in an abandoned house, and there was an African theme, and the format, the style was very similar, which is fine to me. I don't know if that was a conscious decision or it happened, or they said, okay, oh wow, let's make something like this because Scratches was getting popular. I don't care. It's a great game, Darkness Within.
good.
This one, yeah, exactly this one.
This is 2009, and
And
Scratch.
I think, yeah, it's 2006. I think there was a previous version. I am not entirely sure. Um, but yeah, it's similar. I mean, not visually. The puzzles are not quite the same anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting on an interesting topic here, I think, with the,
Mhm.
because I guess what happens is, as a designer, developer, whatever team, they're like, well, what's a good best, what's a good selling game? Oh, it scratches. Okay, why don't we just take that as our inspiration and, we'll change it up a little bit. And then we'll
That makes
also have a
perfect
hit game.
sense.
You know,
That makes perfect sense. Especially today, the industry is, it's it's a very complicated place today. So it makes sense to, see a game, how well it's doing, and if it's within your resources, your skills, and you think you can make a similar game, then you have a parameter, a reference. You know that there is an audience for this game. They're willing to buy X amount of copies. You can estimate that even today, and you have a production plan. Even a marketing starting point
right.
to have an idea, right? Because otherwise, it's a jungle out there. It's highly unpredictable. No one can say how well a game is going to do. It's extremely risky to make games today.
I've been doing a lot of research lately on novels,
Mm.
like the process of that. And the thing I keep running into is if you want to have a bestseller or even a reasonable selling book, then the reader has to know what genre it is. So
Oh,
you basically have to say, okay, this novel I wrote is just like Michael Crichton or whoever,
right.
because if it's too different than that, then they won't know how to categorize it, or people won't be willing to take a chance on it. So I bet, when I read that, I'm like, well, I'm not, from now on, I'm going to seek out stuff that doesn't fit just to be different, because that's why things are so same. If you can't sit there like a gamer can't doesn't have any right to complain about games all being similar if they're not willing to go out and support the indie scene and things that are far away, far removed from their typical, you know,
Yeah.
like, well, I like
Yeah.
I like Skyrim, so I want everything to look like Skyrim. There's other kinds of role-playing games.
Well, I just made that observation in Twitter yesterday. Rosewater an adventure by Francisco Gonzalez just came out yesterday, and the press can be so crappy sometimes. When I say press, I also refer to to the mainstream mindset. The review from a website who even consider themselves, hipster or indie, the review was basically, oh, a point and click adventure for better and worse. And you're like, dude, come on. What? Why that? That's malicious, even. So
Mhm.
yeah, you see the press. They get into games that are basically a copy of Skyrim, which is fine. I'm playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and it's a fantastic game. I'm enjoying it a lot. It has its own merits, but no one is saying, oh, a Skyrim clone or another game like Skyrim or anyway. But when it comes to point and clicks, for some reason, the press always does it. There's such a bias against point and click games.
Okay,
It
you
doesn't
got me
make any
curious now. What? Somebody wrote a nasty review of it. What
not
was?
nasty. It's rock paper shotgun. It's not nasty, the review. It's the headline itself, like putting people into the wrong mindset. Like, why? Yes, it's traditional. How many traditional games you are playing and you don't mention that fact? So why point and click? And really, Rosewater, it has an unusual setting in point and clicks. It has
Hmm.
a different approach. It has a distinct, style even. There's no need to, you know, highlight the fact that it's a point and click. The review isn't bad. The issue is the headline, the mindset that they force the mindset upon the readers. That's the issue I see.
Traditional point and click adventure. Yeah, they've always been. I talked about this a long time ago, but they kept saying that the adventure game genre as a whole was dead. And like every adventure game, they just wanted to completely ignore it. And I'm sitting there, I've got like 50 of them on my shelf. Like they're
Yeah,
popping these things out every couple of months, and you're telling me you're
yeah.
crazy.
I can show you a review from GameSpot who said that 20 years ago about scratches. Like, who's going to play this? And scratches became a bestseller. It's the reason why I have a career in the game industry today. Like, such short-sighted, such a short-sighted opinion. Like, they have been saying the genre is dead for 20 years, and here we are today. Like, can't you just drop it for crying out loud? It's ridiculous. But there you have it. It happens.
What's going on with it? I would remember I'd go to Walmart and like the game section, and like you'd see all these adventure games there. A lot of if you ever play those Nancy Drew games, the
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah,
interactive series, there's like so many
they're
of
very
those.
fun.
They're all selling like hotcakes, and it's just not the type of gamer that I guess they cater to in those big sites. I don't know what the disconnect is there.
Uh they they were more mainstream at some point, adventure games, absolutely. I mean, the industry grew a lot. The genre maybe shrinked over time while the industry grew so much. So of course, adventures are no longer mainstream in the same way that, I don't know, first person RPGs such as Dungeon Master. They are also less common today, but nobody said when Legends of Grimrock was released a few years ago. Nobody said, "Oh, this subgenre is dead" or whatever. They just celebrated. So I don't know why adventures get this flack from mainstream sites. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems like it seems like the sort of opinion that someone said a long time ago, and they all repeat it without really you know reflecting
Yeah, I
upon it.
think that's it.
It's like a broken record. Oh, everybody says that adventure games are dead, so let me put it in the headline so that I maybe oh, it doesn't make sense to me, but well, I don't know. Anyway, it didn't make any
Game
difference.
journalists aren't really doing their job. They're just parroting what they.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Anyway.
is disappointing to see because they could be they could do so much for people.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
if they could just get out of this, they ought to be the ones saying, "Look, guys, give this game a chance. You'd really enjoy this. It's really, if you haven't played this kind of game before, jump in."
Yeah. I mean, does make a difference because indies, especially indies who are working with small boutique publishers or indies, who self-publish, such as we did. I mean, we have no budget for marketing. We barely did any PR. Uh, it will help for sure. I mean, but really, my preference is to work with the people, like keep working with the community and get more honest or less biased feedback, you know. Uh, that's why I'm not inclined to do more, lot of PR for these games.
Well,
Anyway.
thanks for doing my show. Is this PR? I don't know. We just have fun chatting. Yeah, I was oh God, what was I thinking? Well, yeah, the fact that you went through Kickstarter and you
Hmm.
had all those fans from scratches, so
Hmm.
you're able to work directly with them
Hmm.
in ways that I don't know how possible that even would have been, 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
No.
You can have a different relationship with your audience.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't anyway. I wouldn't do a Kickstarter again.
It
I
didn't go so well. Huh.
I mean, I absolutely appreciated working with the community, and I'm super grateful for that. Asylum couldn't have existed without all that help and patience from Kickstarter backers. But again, the industry is such a weird, strange place today. It's extremely difficult to come up with a plan that can be fulfilled in a given time, etc., etc. And the budget, I mean, the Kickstarter actually went, was popular for this sum wasn't typical at all for an indie Kickstarter. We were at the time one of the biggest ones. Um, Asylum actually cost 3 times as that, maybe 4 times as much. That's not all the money that went into production. So it's difficult. It's difficult.
I think one of the negatives of a Kickstarter would be people start getting too demanding and feel like they need more control or they disagree with a decision or whatever. And you're like, I'm the designer.
Yeah, well,
Do you
it's
get
like
pushed back
working.
like that, or is it just
You can, but again, you get a lot of again. The vast majority of Kickstarter backers have been adorable. Like I made dear friends during this campaign, and I don't regret doing it. But there is always a minority who can get very toxic. I have been called horrendous things here,
yeah?
like really ugly, really ugly stuff. Like you are a failure, you're a scam
Oh,
artist, like
God.
like the trashiest stuff. And again, it's a minority, but it does get in the way of the joy of making a game. So yeah, it's not something I want to repeat. Like if we need money, I would probably knock on doors from some publishers, but I would try to do it, fully independent again, the next game, if it's possible, of course.
Guess that's the trade-off. Well, I didn't know they were getting that nasty on them. That's weird to think
Mm,
somebody would care enough about a game to want to financially support it and then turn out to be a jerk.
that's okay. That's an interesting observation. So the people who invested more money were the ones who actually were more patient and take your time, whatever. comes when it comes out again. And but the ones who went for the smaller reward, which was basically the game, they took it as a pre-order. So that was a wrong message
Hmm.
that maybe in crowdfunding has to be addressed clearly. Like there is a risk. You are really helping finance a project. This plan is an estimate, and everything can go straight to hell. Like many Kickstarters did, the amount of Kickstarters that were canceled without explanation is overwhelming. We always communicated with the community, and of course I made mistakes, such as when people was pressuring me to tell them a tentative release date. I was always too optimistic, and I shouldn't have given them an answer. But that's the problem, you see. They financed the game, so I have to say something. I have to give them an estimate, but the estimate is still an estimate, and so on. It becomes a vicious circle. So that's why I won't go there again. I'm being super sincere, about my feelings when it comes to Kickstarter.
I don't blame you. If it's just going to make it more stressful, why
Yeah.
would you? There's easier ways, well, especially for you. I mean, you should have that
Yeah, I mean,
recognition to attract a publisher. You could have probably easily just gone that route, huh?
sure. I mean, the publisher presents other potential stress, but in the end, it's a partner, right? So you have a different conversation with the partner, and if it's the right partner who accepts the game as it is and they won't interfere with production, other than of course they are putting money, so they have a say. That's the truth. To some extent, they will have a say in production within reason. So yeah, I'm not ruling out that possibility. I would certainly, before crowdfunding, I would knock on some publishers' doors. And if the game becomes too stressful, then I just, drop it and do something else. I don't want more stress in my life at this stage. Thank you.
Yeah, there's so many hats you got to wear, because what part do you get the most satisfaction from? Is it designing? Is it writing? Is it the programming? I mean, what part does
No, programming not anymore. Programming is something that I enjoy fiddling and maybe creating an interface or doing an algorithm for something. That's something, once you are a programmer, it's not something you can ever let go. It's something you really enjoy. But I can, I mean, I'm slow programming, so I get in the way of production if I do that. So I want to avoid it. I love, I love and hate writing. That's another problem that I have. Once I get into the flow, it's one of the things I enjoy the most in my life, writing. But the problem is that I'm extremely tough with me. So if the words don't come out as I expect them, or I realize I am writing shit now, I get frustrated too easily and let it go. That's why I'm I'm problematic when it comes to writing, because I can become the bottleneck. So I have to be super careful. If I do the writing, I have to do it under very controlled circumstances. So you could say that what I enjoy the most is like the general production, the design as well, but saying, a bit of the artistic direction, like, okay, we have a house, I want the lighting to be like this, I like the environment, the cinematography. This is something that I really enjoy doing, like working on the cinematography
yeah.
of the game. Like, okay, make sure this light goes here so that that corner has that shadow and the color has this tone. That. You know, it's something I really, really like. The
Yeah, I could
visual
see that.
aspect.
I was struck by that in the playing Asylum when you have the bit where you're trying to get the lights on in the basement, right? And you look at it the first time and it's kind of creepy. Then you put the emergency lights on and then it looks even creepier,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, what a great use of the cinematography.
Mm.
It's a subtle, who would even think to do something like that? But, you are really focusing in on those kind of details. It works.
And that's why I like games which have a cinematic component, uh, even scene scratches, even which it has a bit of the flow similar to a movie in some parts of the game, even though it's non-linear. So I like that. And the aspect of cinematography is something that it's one of those things that you realize you've always appreciated it. But even more recently, I began to, watch movies with a more critical eye and detect, the intention of the cinematographer, why they frame something like this, why they place a character here or another character here, you know, why the lighting is some way. So I pay a lot of attention to that, which is why, as I was saying, Lucio Fulci, who was again really mistreated by the press, you know, people have really crapped on his name for many years. His movies from Zombie, City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and House by the Cemetery, those four movies have some of the best cinematography in any horror film. They are absolutely brilliant. So I
It's
like to focus that on. I mean, as you can see, I like Lucio Fulci.
the one with it's got that scene with the splinter going in the eye. Is that the one?
That's the movie.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
that's
Classic
really well
body.
filmed. Absolutely classic. Yeah.
Yeah. I could see how
Well,
this.
credit goes to the cinematographer Sergio Salvati. I'm pretty sure Sergio Salvati, the cinematographer. So of course it's not Fulci's merit alone. He worked with a really good cinematographer, and it shows. It really shows. I think it's one of the after director and maybe on pair with the script, the cinematographer is the most important role in a film.
I was thinking of. You ever seen a movie called Night of the Hunter?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched that the other day for the first time, and I just kept thinking, like, look at the cinematography in this thing. I mean,
Mm.
every scene is so carefully chosen, and
Yeah,
it's really
it's
a
planned. It's planned. Yes.
it's a kind of an amazing film. Even with it was, I guess the writing was good too, but I think the
Mm.
cinematography really added a lot.
And in that case, of course, the casting, the actors are wonderful too. Of course, I mean, good actors can bring a movie, even a bad movie, to a whole different level. When you're done with Asylum, remember getting back to me because there might be a reference to Night of the Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the so acting, you got voice actors. I guess you had voice actors and scratches too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Is that an enjoyable part of it, working with those?
yeah. Yeah. Yes, I like directing actors and maybe, work with them uh the nature of a delivery or why a character is this way or that way. I enjoy it. It's not what I enjoy the most. I think again, my the hat I like the most is cinematographer and designer when it comes to games in
Sure.
general. Yeah,
Yeah, I've never
but
been.
I love working with the actors in Asylum. They did a wonderful job, and I never expected the dialogues to be good, even more like they were meant to be more functional. But I'm happy with how it turned out in the end. I think some lines are people enjoyed talking with the characters, and they actually wanted more from them, which I guess is a good thing,
Yeah,
good sign.
it's a good problem to have. Yeah, I think it'd be
Yes.
much worse if they're like, you should have cut out stuff, you know. That's kind of getting a bit of a Jack Nicholson vibe from the main
Hmm.
character's voice. And something about his what is it called, intonation or something.
Yeah.
But really
Very,
well
very
chosen. They did a great job. And
glad to hear.
that's a,
Cool.
I just would, I'd love to be in your shoes, you know, to write something and then have a professional actor read the lines. I mean, that must be a
Oh,
thrill.
it's very satisfying. Absolutely, very satisfying when you write the dialogue and you hear it, becoming alive, and the actor or actress like getting into the soul of the character. It's wonderful. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You know, the one that Julia's character, you know, just totally nails that. Like, what are you doing? Who are you? And you're like, oh my God, I don't even know who I am. I think
I was,
think I've been an inmate in this asylum. Maybe I shouldn't tell her.
should I tell her? I was super worried about the character of Julia, yes, because she has to sound, convincing in a way. Like, what are you doing here? And at first, she was supposed to be more, cheerful or sympathetic. And in the end, we went with a more with that hint of disdain, like you're bothering me. Like I already hate my job because I'm here, and why are you here? Like, what are you doing in this place? And I think that worked. People got, got the gist of the conversation. Yeah.
Kind of bad for her because she's like, don't go upstairs. Promise me you won't go upstairs. And I'm like, well, I'm going upstairs.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, exactly. Why not?
Sorry, Julie. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, this
Yeah, I
is
had fun with those
and Bruno
dialogues.
too. And got Lenny. That would have been a
Yeah, Lenny is a
fun
beloved
character.
character. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
The
let's see. You
whole
got
arc from Lenny was inspired a bit by. I mean, the whole game is actually inspired a lot by Infocom games, from the layout, from the bit of the design, the execution, even the way characters have a bit of their own agenda. Lenny and Bruno move a bit across the building. So anyway, Lenny, I was inspired by Floyd in Planetfall. I mean,
oh,
he's not your sidekick per se in Asylum. He's not walking with you around the place, but he kinds of is meant to fulfill that role. You know.
interesting. I hadn't made that connection, but now that you mention it,
No, it's a very. I mean, it's a very very obscure personal connection. You could say even. But
I
yeah,
wonder how many people watching this video know about Floyd Planetfall. That'd be sad if nobody knew.
I,
Like one of the
yeah,
greatest moments in all of adventure
yeah,
games, right there.
totally. Well, true classic, true classic. I mean, it's impossible to feel that today. I
Mhm.
mean, even if you play it for the first time, there's no way it can remotely have the impact that it had, what's 30, no, 40 years ago? Wow.
When did that game?
I think it's 1980 something. So,
Oh, I
yeah,
guess there's 1983.
yeah, more than 40 years ago.
Yeah, that was Steve. You ever meet him, Steve Moretsky?
Yeah, I met him in GDC a couple of times. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I got to meet him.
yeah,
Look at that. Even that cover art is just so classic.
yeah. Steve is fantastic. I enjoy more even his work at Legend Entertainment. You know,
Hmm.
those are great games. Spellcasting series, so much fun. I think when it comes to text adventures, the ones that age the best are Legend games, like for sure. If you play Spellcasting today or Eric the Unready, they are super enjoyable, even if you've never played the text adventure before. So, you know, kudos to them.
I don't know if I've
Yeah.
2019.
I mean, this has its frustrating moments. Some puzzles are definitely too old school, but
That looks good.
it's a very fun game. It's a very, very fun game. Very creative.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
been a
mean, my
while.
favorite from Legend are the Gateway series, actually. Those are more hard sci-fi. Uh, Excellent games too.
Well, let's see if I can hit some of these questions that some people sent in.
Sure.
So Miko wants to know if he says, I'm wondering why Scratches is not available in Poland.
Oh,
Is it a question of not setting up a regional price after Steam switched us from euro to our own Poland currency? So I guess
no,
I don't know if what no.
no, it's not available anywhere in the world. No, it's a rights issue because Nucleosis was disbanded, and I don't own the full rights. I own half of the rights, meaning I can't do anything with the game. To me, it's abandonware scratches. Go ahead, go to archive.org, download it. I don't care. Even if I had the rights, I would have made it free by now. So, really, it's abandonware. That's the truth.
Well, I paid $20 for it.
There you go.
I got to get you the
That's a
sign.
very coveted item now, collection item.
Well, it's nice of you though, not to be concerned about that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else you got here. Somebody was Clive Barker's Undying an inspiration
Hmm.
for Asylum?
No, I wouldn't say. I like the game, but no, 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 no.
What
No,
was
no,
the
no.
first? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the story basically came to me after scratches, and the inspirations at that time. I remember enjoying, the first Saw movies. So the game was meant to be this grungy and dirty, and even the music was going to be more jarring and dissonant at first. That changed over the years. That kind of design, that approach, the visual treatment, the oral treatment changed over the years. But I can't cite like a super specific influence other maybe than, yeah, okay, one movie that definitely influenced Asylum is Session 9, and I mentioned this a lot over the years. Session 9 is a fantastic movie. Uh, I found it was a fascinating treatment of mental institutions, even better than Shutter Island, for example. I think Session 9 is from around the same time as Scratches, 2000. Yes, 2000,
And
2001. So even before scratches, there you go. Maybe the story of Asylum was already, roaming in my head from around that time. Fantastic film.
I'm gonna have to see
Fantastic.
this. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sort of thing, you really tapped into some nightmare fuel for me. I have always had these, if I'm having a nightmare, I'm typically wandering around something like this and like, how did I get here and how do I get out? And everything like those bathrooms in there. I don't know what that
Yeah.
kind of
No.
archetype or something going on there. It's like a primordial fear of being in that kind of place. Now, I think, yeah, I did have some questions about whether you had explored a real asylum.
Yeah, we
I
actually
think
did.
you have, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
plenty of field research, so to speak.
We did a lot of field research, and it's part of the documentary that we are going to launch. Um, Hopefully for Halloween is the plan. We have some interviews that we did in a local mental hospital here in Buenos Aires called Borda, even before we began production. So some of the stuff we saw in that trip inspired the game in a way. So yeah, there was a lot of research into this game, the whole Kirkbride plan, why mental hospitals, changed into the more functional or utilitarian unit system, which is how mental hospitals are being, built today. And I'm fascinated by this concept of Kirkbride, where in the past they saw that the building or the architecture was conducive to healing the mind. That was disproven by, modern science and building, a structure like that, such as what you see in Session 9 or what you see in Asylum, was very expensive. So there were also budget concerns for changing how mental hospitals look. But it gets you thinking, well, what if Kirkbride had a point, and maybe, the majestic building, this more comforting approach, or maybe treating the mental hospital like as a sort of community in which, people with mental illness could develop in a different way. That's interesting, and I think people actually, many people got touched by this aspect of the story. They began investigating Kirkbride,
Mm.
what Kirkbride stood for, and again, sometimes a direction might not be the best one, and you go back in time and rethink what really was the point of doing this, and are we doing it the right way today? That conflict is present is a theme in the game. Anyway.
Comes through well. I'm probably one of those people that wants to know more now, because there is I guess it makes you think, well, what is the right approach? And because now I'm thinking more about it as I'm sitting here, but like you go into you can see what's her name, Dr. Eben Herber, or something like this. Dr. Erber, one of your characters,
Ah,
one of the therapists, I think.
Ebersbach.
Eberbest. So if you're like reading
psychologist. Yes,
you're
yes,
reading her
psychologist.
notes, and it's like, well, I see where she's going with that, and it kind of gives you this intellectual side of the game,
Yeah, there are many themes like
the
that.
real
That's
world
definitely
problem
intentional.
that they're trying to solve, and it's not just like this is the evil villain. They in
Yeah,
their minds
exactly.
this was like a legitimate approach, and then she's talking about getting picked on by the older uh, scientists there. Didn't think it's really good. All the I guess backstory of this.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Okay, I think people appreciated that as well, which is good. A lot of thinking went into these aspects of the game.
Yeah, before I played this, I hadn't even thought about like the how the architecture of an asylum makes a difference, and like you make that pretty
It
clear.
does. Maybe it does, and of course,
Or maybe
sometimes it all comes down to money, and that's part of the some of the conflicts that take place in the game as well. So, what if this shift from Kirkbride to unit system wasn't for the well-being of the people, but rather economic reasons, right?
what might be what's a big name and takeaway collaborators for when designing it. Do you do puzzles first or narrative first?
Mm, it's more organic than that, kind of both at the same time. You know, I
Okay,
make sure that the narrative fits the puzzles, or has provides opportunities for puzzles, and in the same way that puzzles fit the narrative and are there for a point. You know, I try to avoid filler puzzles. I think actually the one filler puzzle in Asylum is the first one, the one you enjoyed with the code. That's that's the more mundane one.
your puzzles.
Fun, but anyway, yeah.
Oh, there's some good designs to that one. To all of them,
Eh,
really, because it's not just like somebody without your imagination, right? They would have just said, "Oh, here's you find the combo, find the combination somewhere, you put this together."
Yeah,
But you again, a little bit of a spoiler alert, I guess, but you kind of make it uncomfortable how you find this combination, and the same thing with that. when you're trying to fix the lights. Like there's a bit you kind of squeamish, like, oh God, what am I gonna
Yeah.
have to do to get these lights on?
And it gets worse. The whole point of the game is to make you feel uncomfortable,
Yeah, it's good though. I mean, it fits the theme. Like you don't just throw a filler puzzle in there that doesn't have any kind of emotional impact. Like you make
Mhm.
sure that everything is visceral.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so the last thing I got here is about the
Okay,
music.
sure.
And I think in the first one, or in Scratches, you had, I think, Cellar of Rats, I think was
Mm-hmm.
the sound,
Yeah.
which I love that soundtrack, by the way. But this
Yeah.
one, is it one of your relatives that did this, or
It's my brother did it.
your
Yeah.
brother did the,
My brother Pablo, and he actually he hit the right tone,
hmm.
reminiscent of scratches, but you know, it still has the soundtrack has its own character. Um, I think the scratches soundtrack is unique. Cellar of Rats is the only thing Cellar of Rats did in the game industry, and I think it's one of the best soundtracks,
Oh,
ever.
Creed.
I really love it. So we had some high expectations, in that department, and I'm happy to see that people like this soundtrack too. Yeah.
Did he make the soundtrack before or during, or did he play the game and then put the songs in? I mean,
No, he no no no.
how did he figure out
He
like how to match the song to the or the music to the game?
he had some an outline of the story. We sent him some images. It's a similar process to the one uh, with Cellar of Rats, and the music just happened, and it was fine. The decision to pair which track to which scene, in some cases that happened after the fact, right?
Mhm.
Once the music was written. But for example, the intro was specifically designed for the introduction. The first song you hear when you enter the asylum, Unexpected Visitor, that was specifically written for that, mysterious moment when you first enter and begin to, discover the mystery, etc., etc. So yeah, it again, it was a bit organic, you could say.
You think people should play this game with headphones?
I don't know. I mean, to
And make it
each
scary?
his
I
or
don't know.
her
That's
own.
already plenty scary
Uh,
enough to me.
sure. I mean, it's not.
Got me with that bathroom scene. I'm like looking at a toilet and there's like all this bang, 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 like right
Uh,
behind me. I'm like, oh my God, turn around. There's well, I won't spoil it for you, but
yeah,
about to
I
give me a
don't
heart
think.
attack.
I don't think it's as scary as scratches. Anyway, yeah, that wasn't the intention. The intention was never to
Oh,
replicate scratches. But it has its scary moments for sure. The game is meant to be disturbing. It,
yeah, I
it
feel like this one is kind of a slow burn, this rising tension. You keep the story, you just like, wow, I thought this was messed up before. Now it's even more messed up than I thought. Oh,
it
now it's
gets
even
more
more
messed up.
messed up. And
It
oh,
is
it's
messed
good.
up.
But it really makes you want to get to the end. So that's good.
Well, let me know. The ending is very divisive. That I can
Oh,
tell you. Very
divisive.
divisive. Divisive, yes.
What the-
Very.
I might have to do this again when I get to the end.
You'll see it. You'll see it for yourself. Maybe I don't know.
How
Just
many hours are there? Because I'm about up to midnight, I think. Is it what point of the game
uh,
am I? Am I like early or
no, no. You're halfway through. I
okay?
think you have maybe 3 to 4 more hours of gameplay, something like that.
Okay. I'll have to let you
Yeah.
know. All
Yes, please, please. Okay.
right. Well, thanks for doing this. It's been
No,
great to
absolutely, Matt. I
reconnect.
mean, it's been such a joy to speak with you again.
Oh,
Wonderful, really. So yeah, let's stay in touch. I've always enjoyed your program. It's a pleasure to be here again.
I think you might be this
Okay.
is your third time on, so you're one of the regulars at this point.
Wow, I'm honored. Okay. Hope you enjoy the rest of the game. I'm
Sure.
eager to hear your thoughts. Okay.
Sure. Okay, well, I'll let you
Okay.
get back to it. Thanks again.
Thanks again, and let's stay in touch. Thank you for having me again in the show.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you
Bye,
for all the
everybody.
nightmares.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's all for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will warn you though that the games here, Scratches and Asylum, are very definitely scary. And I'm not just being facetious at all with that. These things will give you nightmares. So be careful. If you're squeamish, they're not really... how to describe this? Well, I don't know. You give them a try, see what you think. If you're anything like me, which you probably are, yeah, they're going to scare you pretty good. So enjoy that. My advice, wait till after midnight to play. Put on some headphones, turn off all the lights. Oh, yeah. All right. First of all, I want to thank everyone who has supported the show, been a loyal and dedicated Patreon, Ratreon, as I like to call those, esteemed and noble and most benevolent and honorable of folks who have stood up to the plate and donated some time, energy, or enthusiasm to keeping this show on the air. Look, guys, I really, really appreciate everything you do. Even if it's just liking the videos, leaving a comment, telling it about somebody, telling one of your friends about the show, anything you do to support this thing, I really, really appreciate it. I know I speak for Matt Bradley Shergy as well. So if, for whatever reason, you have been holding out, withholding from poor old Matt and Matt, go to that link in the show notes to the Patreon link. Only takes a couple of minutes, maybe even shorter. You might be able to get it done in 30 seconds if you're really fast on the draw. And you can support the show. It only takes $1, $2 or $3, whatever you're comfortable with. But whatever it is, just once again, I appreciate it and thank you very, very, very much indeed. Very, very sincerely. Okay. What about that news from the Matt Cave? Yeah, this old iPhone here, it always wants to scroll when I don't want it to. Anyway, Miko, back on the beat, tells us about a game about Space Quest, or related to Space Quest. So if you're a fan of Space Quest, I think I've got a copy over there. So yeah, it's right under my scratches over there, just off camera. Well, the two guys from Andromeda are back with a brand new game, Space Venture, now in early access on Steam. Not officially Space Quest, but it's the spiritual successor we've all been waiting for. Probably the closest we'll ever get. I think that's according to Ken Williams, who weighed in on this on X. Over a decade in the making, funded via Kickstarter and packed with the same zany sci-fi humor fans love. In this one, though, you can build your ship, scavenge parts, refuel with questionable bio-waste, cobble together your own interstellar junker. Explore a wild galaxy, meet unforgettable characters, and solve clever puzzles with a twist. So there you go. You know, and I don't think I've ever had these guys, either guy, on this show. So we need to rectify that. So if you guys know how to get in contact with those, maybe you've kicked in enough to their Kickstarter to get their attention. Maybe they might listen to you. Let's see if we can get them on the show, because I'd love to sit down and chat with those guys. All right, next up, this again, I think is Miko again. Just shows how dedicated he is. I mean, you're missing out on all the news if you're not on the Discord channel. Okay, Microprose and Adamant Studios are bringing us Knights of Frontier Valley, a roguelike RPG with deep tabletop roots and design input from D&D legend Rob Kuntz. Survive a living, breathing world, engage in tactical, gridless, turn-based combat. I like the sound of that. Gridless. Yes, our combat is gridless. Yeah, you ever have a gridless day? I kind of like that, you know. Okay. Procedurally generated world, I guess that's what makes it roguelike. Shape your story through choices, customize a character, join a faction, or go solo, and experience hand-drawn art. No generative AI. This is true indie game with homebrew engine by a solo developer. So definitely check that out. That game, once again, is called Knights of Frontier Valley. All right, what else do we have here? Finally, Richard Simmons writes in about celebrating the golden age of gaming with Cosme's Forbidden Forests, a collection of 10 classic Commodore 64 titles, including hits by master game designer Paul Norman. So we got a Bardcore. Am I looking at that right? Bardcore? Should that be hardcore? I don't know. But anyway, they've remade Forbidden Forest with all new graphics and audio, with the ability to switch between the remade and the original version. Now, if you've never played Forbidden Forest, by the way, that is still, to me, one of the scariest games. Kind of fits in nice with our theme here with Cordes. In some ways, I think the kind of original look of the game somehow makes it scarier because it leaves more to the imagination. And it's just all of Norman's games just have fantastic soundtracks. I mean, they will just stick in your head for life. Forbidden Forest has one of those, and he's got another game. I don't know if it's, I didn't check to see if it's on here, but I'm sure it must be, called Aztec Challenge. And that one too has just one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard, and also really fun gameplay. So let's see what else we got here. It's got a mix of pick up and play shooters, platformers, adventures, and simulations, digital comics, modern features like a save state and rewind functionality, powered by the Arsenal engine. Wow, so you might actually be able to beat these games. And then a digital gallery of development artifacts and ads from the original games, offering a nostalgic trip down memory lane. You know, one thing, I think these guys miss a lot of opportunities with some of these sort of packages like this, you know. I mean, why? They could have contacted me. Said, hey, Matt, you like this stuff. Would you, we'd like to stick an interview with Paul Norman, some of these other developers, and make it part of this, part of the promotion of this, or part of, maybe even part of the official package, you know. I'd be happy to do that. So just a note, if anybody's listening to this that is contemplating putting together a package like this, I'm right here. Matt, you're too crazy. We don't want you associated with our product. All right, let's wrap it up with a quotation. And I was looking for quotes from psychiatrists and psychologists that might have some relevance to these themes of asylums and whatnot. This one, I found one I just, wow, this is a really good one. This is from an R.D. Lang, L-A-I-N-G, a Scottish psychiatrist. I think you'll agree with me, this is rather profound, if unsettling. It goes something like this. Insanity, a perfectly rational adjustment. Adjustment? Let me do that again. Insanity, a perfectly rational adjustment to an insane world. Yeah. So ponder on that. I'll see you guys next time.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!